Ladies and gentlemen, this is RJ Wellington, and you are watching part 6 of the Great Awakening series. This is called the final chapter, and that is literal in two ways. First, this will be the final chapter of this series, the Great Awakening. I believe I started recording this in 2000, as early as 2020. So for the last couple of years, I released 5 previous videos that I advise you to watch if you haven't, because even though some information may be outdated, but there are some principles and things that we teach there that would be very important nowadays as well. And the second reason this is the final chapter is because we truly believe that we are entering the climax point of whatever is happening now. And so we could consider this the final chapter of the war that is going on, the information war. I will leave a link below. I will upload this video to Rumble as well, because I'm not sure if it will remain in this platform that you're watching now, if they will remove it eventually. So I would advise you to follow the link below and to watch it from there, and to subscribe to my channel on Rumble in case this channel is ever deactivated. To start, I would like to mention the current state of affairs that everybody can see, and those people who are very involved in this situation are observing. Not only me, but many people in this area of exploration, of investigation. We know that the so-called war is at its climax, and when we say war, we are talking about the information war, the psychological war that has been going on for a long time, but it accelerated a couple of years ago with the introduction of that event that came to basically, they try to make it the last attempt at controlling mankind. So, and you will know soon why me and many people think it is at its climax. We know that the so-called Cabal is desperate. That's why they are attempting the last strategies to win or temporarily hold the control. And they are losing that control. If you pay attention only to mainstream media, you might be totally unaware of that. But I believe that the people listening to me right now, they listen to a lot of other people, good people who are trying to share this information and try to help others awaken. And we know that it is something nobody or anything can stop. There are several sources of information in our individual downloads. And we know all timelines, as someone say, lead to the so-called Great Awakening. It is not a human-controlled process. It's a whole cosmic process of the change into a new so-called age. The photonic belt, the Schumann resonance changing, the configuration of planets and stars. So it is again something that you can be sure we are totally confident, because we know what is going on at a deeper level. We know that the mainstream media is running out of gas, in the sense, nowadays many people who have their private channels online, the so-called truthers, They are having a bigger audience than some popular TV shows used to have. We see the audience for most network news falling down, and the audience for people like us growing more and more. And the most important part of it, to me, personally, is that more support and energy from the so-called alliances being poured, given to this planet at this point. And again, it is a matter of configuration at the right moment, the right time, because all the energies are favorable to this big change. And I will give you another piece, another clue, another piece of evidence, and you make your own conclusions. We never ask anybody to believe us. I might be telling you a bunch of lies. And if you do your own research, you might find that you will get to that same conclusion. So one big clue why I personally, from my studies, from my experience, from my downloads, from my intuition, I know this year is a climatic year, is a very important year. Is because of the book 1984 by George Orwell. Some people consider this book kind of a predictive programming. I would consider that more like a warning of things that were to come. Who knows, maybe this author was a time traveler. Some people speculate that, but he brought some information that is really questionable in the sense, was he able to see a parallel line of the future? Now, I have heard many so-called experts, some truthers, talking about this book, especially in the last few weeks or few months, and most of them think that the author was off a few decades, right? So he wrote 1984 as the year of all this happening, but we are almost in 2024, so it's 40 years off. And something I never heard anybody talk about, that is one of my revelations to you. And if somebody starts talking about this right now, they probably got it from me, is that they say that that year is off, right? 1984. But follow me here. Add it up. The numbers. 9 plus 1 equals 10. 10 plus 8 equals 18. 18 plus 4 equals what? 22. And which year are we in right now? Unless I'm crazy, we are in the year of 2022. So, was that date or that year in the book off, or was it a hidden mention of the year 2022? You again, you make your own conclusions. As everybody else, I'm sharing information. I don't know everything, and nobody else does for that matter, even the ones who say they do. But if you follow the clues, the Kabbalists, the numerological clues, you always have to look at the dates, at the numbers, not individually or like in a year, 1984, but you have to add those numbers to see the bigger picture behind that. So continuing on this, on the clues. So again, to me, 1984 was a warning to mankind, right? Again, the addition of all those numbers come up to 22, which is the year that we are. And now, what are we seeing? What is happening to this year so far? Let's look at just a few things. Remember, we're still in the very beginning of June of 2022. And how many things related to that book have happened so far? There was, a few weeks ago, a failed attempt at establishing a so-called information ministry in the US to control, to censor, even more than they're doing now, to censor information, what is true, what is misinformation, and that it relates to the book, the idea of, I think it's a ministry of truth, right? And here, right now in 22, that was that demented lady that they tried to push her as the minister of misinformation, minister of truth. And she was debunked, she was neutralized, and she had to renounce. Okay, so that is one clue of 1984 being 22. We had the World Economic Forum annual meeting, and that is out of the scope of this specific video. But if you search and you look for the meetings this year, you will see those people being totally explicit about world domination, population control, and all types of measures to, according to them, save mankind. But the mankind they want to save is themselves. You know what I'm talking about. We also saw, it is going on right now, the WHO, which is also called the World Homicide, the World Health Organization, attempting at controlling health care around the planet. So they could shut down a full country. People who are not elected by us in control. So if you decided in the United States there is epidemics of, smallpox or chickenpox or monkeypox, they could order us to shut it down again. They could take people's rights. They could force people into taking their poison, if you know what I mean. And finally, we are now seeing the so-called gun control agenda going on in this country, because we know if they take all guns, weapons from citizens, from patriots, from people who love this country, they are in control. We are screwed. Okay, so, and I don't like to be political, but I have to show these facts so you understand my point. That 1984 relates a lot numerologically to this year, and all that you see here in this list is pretty much happening or happened, correct? So those are the clues. That's why I think personally, and from other people's opinions, or the experts, let's say, this is a climax year where one side wins and another side loses. And which side you think is winning? There has been a lot of talk about the so-called alliance. And most people have no idea. They think it's a kind of a military alliance. Or some people think it's just a spiritual alliance. So I'll give you a background again. This is all from my perspective. Okay? I'm not asking you to believe it blindly, because that's not the way to go. But I'm asking you to pay attention and make your own conclusions. If it makes sense to you, great. If not, you can stop watching this video. But let's check the alliance, which is composed of what we call the ground warriors, the kinetic warriors, those brave men and women who are risking their lives literally, the soldiers who go into the dumps, rescuing the little ones from everything you might know at this point was being done to them. So these are, I would say, the first line in the alliance, those who are connected, of course. Then there are the whistleblowers, the social media icons that you might know many of them. And I will not mention any name, because if I do, I will be unfair to many of them, because there are many people who are doing this, uploading videos. Some people are basically, they left their daily job to dedicate only to helping you, to help us, to help mankind awaken. So whether they know it or not, they are also part of this alliance. Some of them know, and some of them are doing out of inspiration. Then we have the so-called star seeds or light workers. Are those who are not famous, they don't have a popular blog or website, but they are doing the job of keeping the frequency, doing the mental, the emotional, the so-called spiritual work to support the alliance in general. And they are usually guided by what we call, I like to compare them with the Jedi Knights, which are the ascended masters on Earth, that are most of them, if not all, related to the Great White Brotherhood. They are giving support. Now, a whistleblower or even a ground kinetic warrior can be a starseed, a light worker. Many of them are. Some know it and some don't. At another level, we have the so-called Galactic Civilizations and the interdimensionals, the good ones I mean, because again, there are two sides. The ones are in alliance with the Great White Brotherhood are advanced, good, well-intended galactic civilizations that have been participating in this for millennia. And the interdimensionals are usually, let me mention again, not wanting to be unfair, but beings like Bashar, Set, Cryon, they are in this level, interdimensionals, and they have been giving us amazing revelations and prophecies for many years, way before all this started. So this is the alliance's hierarchy, if you will. Do you feel as part of one of these levels? Because the two last levels are really a very small percentage, like 1 to 2%. But I believe that if you are listening or watching this video, you might be in the third category, the starseed, the light workers. And that's why we come here to give you support, to keep the frequency, as we will see later in this video. Now, let's talk about a very important concept that every light worker should know, or every kinetic warrior should know as well, every whistleblower for that matter, is the concept of power versus force. They are very different. So you see on the right side of this display, the ones that most people, the ones who are awakening, think are in control. We have the reptilians, we have the technocrats, the witches that have to take some substance to live longer, and you know what I'm talking about. It starts with the A. There is the military complex controlled by the Cabal. They are the people who are drugged, the MK Ultra victims, and there is the so-called medical pharmaceutical complex. Yes, do they have any power? No, They have force, and you will understand very well what I'm trying to say here. Because, and this is the first realization that I've been trying to make you understand since the beginning of this series. And hopefully today, in this last episode, you finally get it. You have to understand that everyone, and I mean everyone, is equally powerful at the core level. At that so-called, I don't like the word spiritual, but I will use that for some of you to understand it better. At that level, we are all equally powerful. Because technological advancement does not mean anything to us. Because you can talk about a race of reptilians who are millions of years ahead of us, they have all the technology to control. But if, and that is proven, if a race, a civilization advances technologically, but they don't advance at the energy level spiritually, they are not worth crap. Really. And they can be very bad, as we see. So every soul in the universe has the same potential and capacities, capabilities. Yes, that includes you who are listening to me right now. Don't think of yourself out of that group. And one thing you have to realize, if someone don't express universal love and respect each other's free will, they are not advanced at all. You can call them whatever you want. Technologically advanced, evil, whatever you want to call it. But they are not advanced where it really matters. Because let me share with you some characteristics of the ascended or advanced civilizations. And there are many. Okay? Don't believe when some people say that all ETs are bad, or some say all ETs are good. No, as above, so below. We have good and bad human beings, right? So there are ascended civilizations of so-called extraterrestrials. And that is the future of our planet as well, if you go the way it is supposed to go. One of the characteristics is universal and unconditional love. You might have heard this term before, unconditional love, which implies respecting the golden rule. To be part of the true Galactic Alliance, these civilizations must abide by these rules, respecting the golden rule. And what is the golden rule? Very simple. Don't do to others what you don't want to be done to you, or do to others what you want them to do towards you. Right? That is simple, that is basic. We've been learning this for thousands of years. All religions talk about the golden rule, by the way. There is also the concept that you might have heard if you read some books from interdimensionals of service to others versus service to self, which just means whatever you do in a mode of I'm giving more than I'm expecting to receive. You can sell your products, you can sell your services, but make sure that you're doing that out of love, out of service to others, no matter what it is. That is one aspect, by the way. There are many more, but I want to be short here. There is the aspect of empathy. What is empathy? Putting yourself in somebody else's place, which is basically, I would say, a subdivision of the golden rule. So if I don't want someone hitting me in the face, I want to do that to them. If I see someone suffering from a disease, empathy means me. I specifically know energy healing. I'm gonna see that person as myself when I'm doing the healing. And the last characteristic here, I'm limiting this list somehow, but those are the more important, is a contribution to the expansion and evolution of all. So these are the characteristics of ascended civilizations. So whoever you see doing something bad, doing something wrong, disrespecting the golden rule, you know they are not advanced at all. And obviously, as above, so below. An ascended civilization is composed of ascended individuals. And what are the characteristics of these ascended individuals? They very similar. They practice universal unconditional love by respecting others' free will and practicing the golden rule. They have an alignment of the Trinity. And as you see in this picture, an example of the Trinity is the physical structure, the atomic structure, aligned with your higher self. That I'll explain a little further. And your higher self is aligned with universal, infinite consciousness. That's why Jesus said, you cannot come to the Father but through me. But he wasn't referring to him only as a person, but the inner Christ. You cannot reach universal consciousness but by that part of you that we call the higher self. So alignment with the higher self is essential. Some call it the Holy Ghost or Anima. I like to call Anima in my teachings, in my classes. Reliance on the force. And what is the force? Look at the top of this graphic, the symbol of infinity. The force is everything. As in Star Wars, it surrounds you, it penetrates you, it bonds the galaxies together. And we rely on that, not on humans, not on technology, not on systems. Dominion over matter is the next step. There are some advanced civilizations that they can levitate things with the power of their minds. They construct things or they materialize, even advanced, ascended masters. They are able to materialize things in their hands, in front of you, if they wish to. And that brings us to another important realization. Both the word religare, which gave origin to the word religion, and the word yoga have a similar meaning, which means to unite. And what is this religare, this yoga, this union? It is this alignment of the Trinity. That is the secret behind every mystical, esoteric, and secret society teachings, by the way. Now, this should be enlightening to most of you. You can be sure that the Cabal, these people who use force and try to violate universal laws, they can only mess with your atomic structure, as you see, the physical body, with your lower mental body, which is a product of programming, of collective hypnosis, if you will, and your lower emotional body. And they can mess with your physical DNA. They have been doing that for a while, but I'll show you the antidote for that in a few minutes. To mess with your lower emotional body and your mental body, they have to keep you in a frequency of fear, shame, guilt. Doesn't that sound like the current religions of the Matrix? Think about that. And they use the divide and conquer strategy. Make you think that you are lower or that you are superior to someone else, when again, ultimately we are all at the same level. They use distractions. Well, just turn on the TV. Go anywhere and you see the distractions they are using all the time. Now, someone can understandably ask, if we live in a just universe with universal laws, one of it being the law of free will, how can they control us? What about our free will? And I will give you the answer to that. How can they do that? Well, people are acting out of their free will. Again, nobody's free will is really violated at some level. And why? They are geniuses at manipulation, at control, at propaganda, at messing with your lower bodies, your mental and emotional. So what they came up with? The problem reaction solution strategy that is called the Hegelian Dialect. And how they do that? Look at society today. Look just at the last 2 or 3 years. I'm not even talking about the events previous to that. But look at society. What is happening? And see if this strategy is not being used. They create a problem. Or the perception of one. Usually is a perception. As in the latest health crisis. Then they use their press, what they call press, which is just, I would say, a means of mass programming to create fear, anger, desperation, dissatisfaction, then with the intention of making people beg for a solution. Oh, there is this disease, we need a cure. I don't want to die. And then they give people what they asked for. Isn't that free will? Aren't these people exercising their free will? You tell me. To me, there is no other way for them to keep this control. And many people, unfortunately, the majority of the population fall for it. Right? And there is another term called preemptive programming that they use. Many years before, I would say, a health crisis, they might release a few movies showing something like that to scare people. So when they come up with the perception of one, people will be pre-programmed to get into a state of fear, anger, desperation, panic, and beg for a solution. Is it all coming together? And I know most people listening to me right now are very aware of this. I just wanted to give you my point of view, my explanation. Now, is there a solution? Well, if there wasn't any solution, I wouldn't even be here wasting my time talking to you. But one thing that you might have heard from others, I have heard, and I got that download as well, because I work with my higher self. At this point, we were told by the Alliance, the Great White Brotherhood, and we are told individually through our intuitions as well. We are not about saving the sheep anymore. That might sound hard, but some people had the opportunity. I'll give you a simple example. I live in New York. Most mask mandates were lifted, except for public transportation, the trains, the subway, and the buses. But you still see a poor soul driving a car alone with the windows closed, wearing 2 masks. You still see people believing that the last election was totally fair, and they will fight you for that. They will probably beat you up if you say that whatever you believe that it goes against their narrative. Because I think it was Mark Twain who said it is easier to fool someone than to convince them that they have been fooled. Right? There is also that concept of cognitive dissonance. They don't want to admit that they made mistakes, and that is okay. That is part of this phase. It happened before on this planet a while ago. So what happened? These people will be recycled. They are volunteering to leave this planet by accepting to take a poison. And you know what I mean. Again, I wanted to keep this video on this platform as well. But I believe now you can associate everything I'm saying now. But again, go back here. We are not about saving the sheep anymore, but we are about strengthening the lions. And that's why we continue to do this. That's why I think you are listening and watching this right now. Because at some point you have to take a stand. Am I a sheep or am I a lion? And again, if you're listening to this, I doubt that you are a sheep. Otherwise you would have disconnected in the first couple of minutes. And a piece of good news. Some people might not believe that, but we have reached the so-called critical mass. Okay? A mass substantial enough to turn the game around. And that's why I told you in the beginning about the 1984 being connected to the year 22, because now is, there are no rules. The only rule is, let's win this war. The information, the psychological, the mental war. And part of this, I would say, task that we have is removing power from these people. We are all familiar with the legend, not legend, it was true, David versus Goliath. And I have one part of this series, I believe it's part 2, that talks about becoming untouchable by using one of the most important, you can call it prayer, declaration, magic of the Bible, which is Psalm 91. So go back to video 2. I give you all the explanation and I read the whole psalm from there. Okay? But that is part of it. Because who was David? He was a young guy at that time who was totally connected. David was one of the most powerful initiators in the Bible, because he had the power of God, of infinite consciousness behind him. And he did not have any fear. So when he had to face Goliath, which is most probably a Nephilim, he was a giant, and back then there were giants on earth, right? He just trusted the universe, what he called his God, to do it, or God in himself. So, that brings us to the conclusion. Our greatest work is where it really matters, at the level of life force energy. Okay, it is important for us to release the audios, videos, to go out and peacefully protest. But that wouldn't be enough if we, I'm talking now about star seeds and light workers. Probably that is the audience I'm talking to at this point. We have to work at the level of light force energy. So, a strategy, step 1, for us, remove their power. And step 2, strengthen your own power. And I will show you a few ways to do it in a few minutes. So step 1, how to remove their power. Realize that the power is stronger than force. So don't give them any power. Okay, don't see them as better than you. If David saw Goliath as better, as stronger, as more powerful, he would be killed in a second, most probably. The second point, remove fear from your life. And I know it is easier said than done, but I have several. Besides this series, I have other videos on YouTube that talk about metaphysical principles. Right now I have a weekly Sunday service in a social network. If you're interested, you can get in touch with me. Every week I release very inspiring, life-changing audios based on metaphysical science for people to take control. I'm going to start one series on prosperity this coming Sunday. So, the only way to remove fear is to get knowledge, to know who you are, to grow energetically or spiritually, if you will. You have to act. How you act? You don't have to be in the front lines. You don't have to record the audios, videos, but just sharing information. If you read a book that you like, that can lift someone, if you watch this video and you like, please share with the people you know that might benefit, or anybody else's video. Again, there are many good people there doing this work, so you don't have to share my things necessarily. But share whatever you think is uplifting. Use the force, your thoughts, your feelings. That is what makes up your force. That is your way of communicating with the light force energy. And see these miserable people as they really are, weak, evil, desperate, because they are operating from fear. If they have to manipulate people and violate people's free will, violating the golden rule, they are operating from fear. Therefore, they are weaker than you are. And finally, last but not least, practice universal love, which I explain is basically using the golden rule all the time. Okay? Practice that. And step 2, strengthening your power. I would say that the secret to strengthening your power is to assume your true identity once and for all. And what that means? Assuming your power, realizing, yes, I'm a child of God or a child of the universe. I'm a light worker. I'm as powerful as anybody else in this universe. Becoming untouchable. And again, there is one video on this series only about that. So I'm not going to repeat myself here. Go back if you care and watch that on Psalm 91. Know that you are the most powerful being in your personal reality, and nothing or nobody can affect you if you do not allow for that to happen. Learn how to increase your power and work towards ascension or higher consciousness. Again, you can read books, you can watch videos, audios, you can train under a coach, a teacher, a master. Just make sure that they are legitimate. Okay? You don't want to learn tennis from someone who never played tennis, just read a few books. So that is important. But again, there are many ways. Increase your power and works toward this ascension. Grow yourself, master yourself, and very important, do not wait for a savior. It has to start from within. You say, I am my savior, because I tell you, your higher self is all there is in your life. That is your true savior. Not an army, not a president, not a politician, not a guru. Because King David, the king of the original Hebrew people, wrote in Psalm 82 verse 6, I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. It was there, folks. Thousands of years ago, you have been receiving the clues, the lessons, the teachings. But at the other end, there is this cabal trying to distract you, to keep you in a state of panic, of fear, of doubt, disbelief, that it pushes you away from your true destiny. Now, another very important point. There has been a lot of talk about the DNA, right? The importance of the DNA. And I will probably share with you something that you might not have heard before, at least this clearly. The Cabal has always had an obsession about altering human DNA, right? In another video of this series, I think it's those who from heaven to earth came, I give you a full explanation of DNA, attempts at DNA alteration since the biblical time. So go back to that one again. This series completes itself. It's not linear necessarily. But they have an obsession. And what is happening now, after this latest health crisis, quote unquote, with the release of a DNA altering solution, they are trying to do the same thing. So go back to that video that I explained much more clearly and completely. But why? Because, and this is part of our evolution, and cosmic forces, the photonic belt, are contributing to that. As our DNA is restored to its original template, we automatically acquire more power and freedom, even without having to be meditating 5 hours a day, or repeating mantras, or dancing around the fire, or whatever it is they use as a ritual or permission slip. As our DNA is restored, we acquire more power and freedom, and that's why they are desperately attempting to again damage our DNA with this new poison. DNA is the God blueprint in us. And why? Because your DNA has the coding for rejuvenation, perfect health, superpowers, immortality. All that you can imagine is there in that original, perfect God's template in you. Now I will reveal what I call a master secret about DNA, that from my perspective at least it was never revealed before this as clearly as I'm going to share with you. The hidden secret of DNA. Okay, so in the figure on the left, you see again the representation of the atomic structure and the representation of the higher self. Now, let's say I'll give you a very clear example. I give you a DVD or a SanDisk with all the information needed to run your computer. And you install that disk in your computer, you copy that information, and you pull out the SanDisk or the DVD. Now, let's say a few months from now your computer breaks down. You can easily restore because you have the original template. So the secret of DNA that they don't want you to know, there are people making a lot of money teaching ways of how to restore your DNA. Usually they sell you very expensive things, and I don't like to criticize, I'm not about, but I'm against exploiting people, not giving the right information. Okay, so your original DNA template is stored at your energy level, at your higher self memory. So look at the chart again. That level of the higher self, all the original blueprint. And that's what the so-called mad bads are about restoring your original DNA template. But we don't know when they will come. And you can do that with your consciousness, because every technology is a technology of consciousness. I teach people how to do that every day. You can and you should access and command the template to be restored. It could be as easy as that. So what you have to take from here, your original DNA template was never manipulated, altered. It is stored there for you to tap and access. So you have to recognize that your backup was never has been tampered with. And you have to ask your higher self to restore it. The Bible says, ask and it shall be given to you, right? It could be as easy as that. And I think part of my mission is to make clear or to simplify those esoteric concepts of the past, because again, we are in a new age, and this new age is about clearing all the clutter. So to some beginner students, this is a very basic method, what I call a meta affirmation or a mantra. When you say, I am the perfection of my original DNA blueprint, restore and active now. Call it a mantra, call it affirmation, but try it. Don't take my word for it. As you do this, and something that I will be teaching you very soon, you will be able to restore your DNA without any physical device, because we still don't know how long it is going to happen for this to be totally exposed or undisclosed. And also, one of my previous videos, that is not a part of the Great Awakening series, but I give the recipe. You can go back also on Rumble or YouTube and find that video about this formula that includes 4 natural elements that can help you restore DNA. They can help decalcify your pineal gland, adding to one of the best, I would say, tools you can use, the so-called 528 hertz sound, so that you can also find freely on YouTube several pieces of audio playing that sound. So again, I create a whole video on this. I don't want to waste the time on this here. Do your own research if you care. Look for my previous videos. Now, there is also this concept about the masters, this mythology, this legend of the masters. And in reality, what does a master know? What a master really knows? Okay? At the very basic level, every master knows that you are already multidimensional, infinite and eternal by nature. We saw that in multidimensionality in the chart, you have a 3D body, you have a 50 dimensional template, and you are connected to all dimensions at the same time. So the formula is very simple. To become a master of your reality, you must know that as much as we do, that you are multidimensional, infinite, and eternal by nature. That requires only, I would say, 3 gradual steps: beliefs, faith, and knowing. Is there a difference? There is. Let's look at this difference now. First of all, you have to realize that belief is a conditional. Most beliefs, if not all. So you might say, I believe I can be prosperous, be rich, if only I have a college degree, or if only I win the lottery, or if only I open a successful business. That's what you condition being rich on some external condition. And when you do that, you are missing a lot of probable realities in which you could be rich by any other way. Now, what is faith? The Bible says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Now, if you plan to travel to London next week, and you've never been in London, would you doubt that London exists? No, because you know from information, from movies, from books, right? You know that London is there. That's what comes close to the explanation of faith, which automatically leads us to the next step, which is knowing. Now, if I ask you, do you believe that you can walk? Do you have faith that you can walk? Or do you absolutely know that you can walk? What would your answer be? If I ask, do you believe you can speak? Do you have faith that you can speak, or do you know that you can speak? So why I call that the state of the one? Because in the movie The Matrix, one of the most important parts that many people, or phrases that many people miss, when Morpheus tells Neo, don't think you are, know you are. That is the state of a master. That is the state of the one, by the way. Now, changing subjects, but still within the major theme, and you know why. Some people understandably come to me and say, and ask, why is it taking so long for the shift to happen? As you see in the picture, that lady, where is my savior? Poor me. Many people are still over the fence. They want to believe that we are going through a major positive change, but at the same time they turn on mainstream media. So there's no wonder why they lose the hope. Okay, so, but the first thing you have to ask, what is time anyway? If you look at this from the bigger picture. Because for both the ascended beings as well as for the dark side, time is irrelevant. And when I say the dark side, I'm talking about those you would call reptilians. They can live tens or even hundreds of thousands of years, and an ascended being is immortal. So to them, let's say 3 years feels like 3 hours or even less. And this plan, you have to understand that you are now in the climax. And you should be very happy because this has been going on for millennia. It happened before many times. And the timing of the plan must respect the collective free will. So there is a percentage, right? A critical mass can accelerate timelines, is what is called quickening. Some people say around 10% of mankind. Some people say even less. But one thing that you have to remind yourself always, individual quickening can happen instantly or very quick. And if you don't do your own quickening, don't be asking for a savior, okay? Because as above, so below. Even if there is a major shift, if you don't work on your quickening, you'll be missing a lot. Or you might even be taken out of here, literally. And again, finally, for this topic, you have to understand that this is a right or the perfect cosmic setup for the Great Awakening reset. It was predicted since biblical times by prophets, by seers, by multidimensional entities. And we see that happening. We can feel that. There are cosmic events pointing to that. This new energy, or new age, if you wish to call that, facilitates expansion of consciousness. And all they can do is to delay it a little more. But they can't stop what is coming. Many old souls have volunteered for this moment. You might be one of them. Who knows? And how you know? We usually say that the individuals who feel the calling must do their part. If you feel inside yourself, yes, whatever these people, these truthers or these teachers, these masters are saying, makes sense to me. You are probably one of those feeling the calling or wishes. Again, keep in mind that I'm not trying to recruit you to any religion, to any sect, to any cult, okay? I don't care about your choices. I'm not trying to sell you anything. So, you have no compromises with me. But I'm telling you that if you don't do your part, you are not following your call. Whatever the way you do your part, again, sharing a video, writing a book, recording your own videos, whatever it is that you can do to help others, is part of your, let's say, mission. And finally, on this topic, what is taking so long? I have a whole video about the yugas and the human multidimensional nature. So again, I won't waste your time going over this here. Go back. It is called The Great Awakening Part 3, The Force Awakens. There I give a full explanation. Because now we are going to conclude this presentation, the final chapter, with a few very important topics. So keep paying attention. We are almost over. I'm sorry it has to take so long. I also don't like long videos, but I have to put this out, and I hope you are following along. You can pause this sometimes if you want to stop and come back. But now one of the most important parts is coming. Okay? So the way of the master. If you remember the movie The Matrix, also there is a point where that guy Cypher, which is from the other side, asks Neo in a challenging way, so you are here to save the world. What do you say to something like that? And what do you think about yourself? If you are listening to this, you've been listening to other people. Do you think you have the capacity that you are here to save the world? What do you say to something like that? Well, to go along that path, the path of the One, you have to realize who you truly are. And I've been telling that for years, both here on these videos, in my private training, in my Sunday services that started at the beginning of this year. So it's not a lack of information. We don't have that excuse anymore. But even if you have that information, you still have to work on your own quickening. You should find like-minded souls. Again, you don't have to join a church or a group or whatever it is. But basically communicating with other people online is forming a network. Watching, as you're watching now, other videos from other people. And think about the collective. How can I be of service to as many people as possible? Because I tell you, and I think you, if you got to this point in this video, you are in that category that we say, we heard, a Jedi Knight is stronger than 1,000 troopers. So, I truly believe those who got to this point in this video are in at least very good potentials for that category. Now, I will share a gift from the Great White Brotherhood. And please don't underestimate, don't neglect this, don't think this is too simple to be true. It's the secret of the so-called violet flame. You might have heard about this, you might have read about this. There are some good people have been spreading this message for a very long time. So, the violet flame, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, because I practice that, is the most powerful cleansing frequency in the universe that was brought to us by many ascended masters, including Saint Germain, an immortal. The violet flame can cleanse your karma and your mental and emotional bodies. The violet flame can purify your environment. Yes, the environment. I'm talking about your house, your workplace, wherever you are. The violet flame purifies the planet. That is one of the requests of the Ascended Masters for us. And the violet flame can decalcify your pineal gland. That's how powerful it is, and that's why we call it a gift. So now, let's see the basic way of working with it. Okay, you relax as if you are going into a visualization or a meditation, and you imagine and feel the violet flame as a fire, a real flame around your body. Look at the pictures on the right. You feel the reality of that flame consuming all around your body, penetrating your body. You expand that feeling, expanding to your environment. See your home being covered by that flame, your city, your state, your country. And finally, as you see in the picture, imagine, feel the violet flame covering the whole planet and correcting all wrong impurities in the planet. Okay? You imagine with your mind, and it's usually you use your third eye and you feel with your heart. And I will tell you, people, I cannot overemphasize it. I don't want to appear like I'm exaggerating. You are being given information that until a few decades ago were given only to members of secret societies and some very secluded groups. So do not underestimate it. Use it and see. Because I tell you, and other people have been telling this, if a large, big enough group of people practiced these things, we could get rid of all our problems in just a few days. So that's why it is important for you to share this in one way or another. Again, I'm not trying to force you or to promote you to share my video, but practice it. If you feel it working for you, do whatever you feel is right. And another gift that I also strongly suggest you to practice is what we call a meta declaration, which was also inspired by the teachings of the Great White Brotherhood. So you can write this down, you can return to this video later or freeze it right now, because this is also extremely important, and you see how much you will grow as you repeat this declaration. You can call it a prayer if you want. It goes like, I am the infinite master of my reality, bringing balance, power, justice, and harmony to myself, my home, my town, my state, my country, and the planet. I am the infinite light of God that never fails, correcting all wrong and imbalance in this planet, and bringing this light to all that I touch. And so it is. Again, if enough people, and that doesn't have to be too much, repeated this declaration every day, and that's what we want. Okay, that part of the light workers who are keeping, by doing this, you are literally working with the light. You are really contributing to the alliance. Clear? And why we are going through all this? I will briefly describe it to you, and that is also from the Ascended Masters and the Great White Brotherhood, the glorious destiny of America. Look at that picture. No country in the planet has ever been like the United States of America. Why? And that might be a revelation to most of you. America is meant to be the birthplace of the seventh race. We have had many root races throughout history for millennia and millennia. So there were the first, the Polarians, there were the Hyperboreans, the Lemurians, the Atlanteans. We are now in that period of transition. The current transition is the Aryan race, and we are becoming kind of, the sixth root race is kind of a sub-race of the Aryan. And that's where we are now to lead to that seventh root race. Now, why is the American territory chosen for that? Well, I cannot tell you now. And it doesn't mean that the rest of the world is not worth it. No, because America was meant to be kind of, I would say, a light to the world, according to the masters of the Great Fraternity. Okay, and that will benefit. Because we know, if America falls, the whole planet falls. Because again, it is being prepared for the 70 root race that some people are calling the Homo Spiritualis, and that has to do with our structure going from carbon-based to crystalline-based. But that is another topic that one day we may talk about this. But keep this in mind. There is a huge battle to keep this from happening. And whether you want it or not, especially if you are listening to me and other people, you are part of this. Remember, the motto of our motto, the Alliance motto is, united we stand, divided we fall. And what is the motto of the Cabal? Divide and conquer. Are you falling for that? And to close, I want to say, you are listening to me. You might listen to someone who has different opinions, or might have a different point of view, or might say that everything that I say is BS, and it doesn't matter. But we have to realize, we may have different points of view, different backgrounds, but at the most fundamental level, we are humans. We are good. We are divine seeds. And we are in this together. I myself, I'm not here to prove that I'm better than anybody, that I know more than anybody. I'm not here for ego battle. I'm here to share information like many good people are. And we don't want to see division. Someone criticizing someone else because they want to have more audience or more followers or more views. Grow up. We are above that level. Now we have to realize, united we stand. Keep that in mind. Practice everything that we have been sharing here freely with you. And you will see. Because I have to remind you, always remember, the awakened are infinitesimally more powerful than the woke. That's it, folks. That was the last chapter, the final chapter of the Great Awakening. I hope you enjoyed. I suggest you to go over it again, especially the practices to restore your original DNA template and the practice with the violet flame. Okay? You are getting information here that is worth hundreds of books. Clear? Thanks for listening. Thanks for your patience. And may the force be with you always.